In this video, I'll provide a film critique for Rocky, the 1976 sports drama film written and starred by Sylvester Stallone and directed by John G. Avildsen. Widely regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time, Rocky follows the story of Rocky Balboa, an Italian-American journeyman boxer in Philadelphia with remarkable talent but little professional success. However, unique circumstances lead him into a match against world heavyweight champion Apollo Creed, where he is granted a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to prove himself against the world's best. Although he loses the fight by split decision, the movie is ultimately not about the boxing match that drives much of its plot. Instead, the emotional crux of the film comes from studying Rocky as a character and how he pushes through adversity in order to improve his life and the lives of people around him. Through a psychoanalytical and historical lens, this video will analyze how the film reached incredible critical and commercial success primarily through the strength of Rocky Balboa as a character. The first lens through which we will critique the film is a psychoanalytical lens, which, as described by the Poetry Foundation, is a process of applying psychoanalysis to either the author or the main character of a work, seeking unconscious or latent meaning underneath the manifest language and analyzing the symbols contained in a given work. Through a Freudian perspective, Rocky's psyche can be perceived as having an absence of ego, which unconventionally leads him to the great success he experiences in the film. Inside and outside of the ring, Rocky is defined by his endearing stubbornness. He is not good at dealing with other people and making compromises, as he constantly follows his desires and fights for what he believes to be right. Despite working as an enforcer for a mob boss and threatening people around him for a living, Rocky continually shows compassion for the people around him, holds a strong moral compass, and has a powerful self-drive to improve at boxing. The slow pacing of the film allows the audience to fully grasp what kind of life Rocky lives before the main boxing plot truly begins, along with long shots of him thinking alone that help further emphasize, despite his appearance and demeanor, that he is someone deeply in touch with his emotions. Rather than viewing him entirely as a villain or a hero, it is more meaningful to understand him as someone who constantly acts in his own interests irrespective of social standards, which places him in both a positive and negative light in differing circumstances. In Freud's model of the psyche, the ego is the component that manages the conscious decision-making process and negotiates between our desires and ideals with the real world. Individuals with overly strong egos may struggle with people-pleasing and poor self-motivation, while those with weak egos struggle with controlling their impulses. Rocky falls into the latter category, but his portrayal differs from the conventionally negative archetype of the dumb brute that often appears in media. His lack of regard for what other people believe of him ultimately leads him to his greatest success. He is able to go the distance, or fight all 15 rounds of his match with Creed, not because of his boxing skill or smarts, but because he has the overwhelming willpower to keep on getting up and fighting until both of them can barely move, along with having the strength to have fiercely trained for the months leading up to the fight. He navigates the complex relationships with his trainer and best friend as they seek to make their own profits off of Rocky's situation by not compromising on his morals in the face of money or fame. Finally, he builds a meaningful relationship over the course of the film with his love interest, Adrian, by not capitulating to the way other people think of and treat her, seeing her for the person that she truly is and loving her as honestly as possible. By interpreting the classic underdog story as an individual willing to achieve their dreams irrespective of social stigmatization, Sylvester Stallone brought a character to life that remains famous today for their strong characterization. While a psychoanalytical lens provides insight into Rocky's critical success, a historical lens is better employed to understand its commercial success and ability to remain in the popular culture. M.H. Abrams, in a glossary of literary terms, defines the lens as understanding literary texts as situated within the totality of institutions, social practices, and discourses that constitute the culture of a particular time and place. Through this lens, we can understand the film's success as a product of being released in a time of significant socio-economic upheaval, which, combined with its portrayal of a rags-to-riches story, captivated its primarily American audience in the mid-1970s. Rocky was written in a time of incredible socioeconomic change in America, with many movements shaking up the social fabric and increasing economic stagnation and inequality, reducing the average quality of life for people around the country. While Rocky Balboa isn't completely destitute, it's clear that he's mired in poverty and struggles to hold down a so-called respectable position in life, being battered on all sides by differing people, pushing and pulling at him to behave in the ways they want him to act. The movie spends far more time following Rocky around in urban Philadelphia rather than in a boxing gym or arena, placing him in the viewer's mind as an everyday man first and foremost instead of an athlete. Combined with his heroic qualities, the film's framing of him made it very easy for the average person of the time, likely struggling with identifying their own place in the world and feeling less empowered than previous generations, to self-insert themselves into the story. The core message of Rocky, that hard work and self-determination can lead to self-actualization, is also likely to have resonated with audiences at the time. Had Rocky unrealistically won against Creed, the clearly better boxers, audiences might have seen it as overly cheesy after being disillusioned by many real-world controversies and issues. But since Rocky's victory is portrayed as an internal one, where he was fulfilled in spite of the outcome of the fight from his hard work and the relationships he achieved en route to his goal, his journey towards self-actualization becomes something that anybody in real life can achieve. In a time when people felt an increasing lack of control over their lives, the film presented a sorely needed feel-good story that reached great commercial success as a result. In famous critic Roger Ebert's rare 4-star review of the movie, he states that what makes Rocky so extraordinary is that it doesn't try to surprise us with an original plot, with twists and complications. It wants to involve us on an elemental, or sometimes savage, level. The strength of Rocky as a film comes from how we as an audience empathize with the main character, rather than the larger themes and plot, which is a large reason why the film still holds up in modern times. People, both now and back then, want to become something more than the labels assigned to them and what other people see on the surface level, and as a result, can find some part of them in Sylvester Stallone's sympathetic portrayal of Rocky Balboa. Strengthened by the zeitgeist of the time, he was further elevated into film culture as a symbol of hope for the 1970s, transforming the movie from something that might have been a relic of the past into what is regarded as one of the greatest sports movies of all time. Almost 50 years later, we are still looking back on it as an empowering story of what someone can do when they take advantage of the opportunities given to them to transform their life.